All right, real talk here. Has anyone else stood in line at the post office or the Walgreens photo kiosk, all ready to finally get that passport photo done? Maybe you've even put on a nice shirt. And then some stranger behind the counter looks at you dead in the eye and says, "Don't smile." Just like that. Just like you committed a crime by having a friendly face. No explanation, just don't smile. And you're standing there thinking, what exactly is your problem? I'm about to travel the world. I'm excited. And you want me to look like I just got audited? Well, it turns out there's actually a totally fetched reason behind the no smiling rule. And once you hear it, it'll completely change how you think about facial recognition, airport security, and honestly, your own face. So let's get into it. First, a little history because context is everything. Passports are way older than most people realize. The concept goes back at least 2,500 years, as far back as 445 BC, when a man named Nehemiah was given letters from a king granting him safe passage to rebuild Jerusalem, which is considered the first recorded mention of the passport concept. For most of history, though, passports were basically just a piece of paper that said, hey, this person is cool, let them through. No photo, no biometrics, just vibes and a royal signature. Before photography existed, US passports described you in writing, things like your eye color, hair color, the shape of your forehead, and many people just wrote average for everything, which, as you can imagine, made the whole thing pretty useless for identification purposes. Imagine being stopped at the German border and presenting a document that says your distinguishing features are brown hair and an average face. Whatever. That could be everyone. So, when World War I broke out in 1914, governments got serious. Fearing espionage, countries started requiring photos and physical descriptions on passports. Then in 1920, the League of Nations stepped in to create a globally standardized passport system. Now here's where things get interesting and a little bit wild. Early passport photos had almost no regulations. You could actually find historical photos of people posing with musical instruments or wearing elaborate, distracting hats. Some were full group shots. Basically, people treated their passport photos like senior portraits, which honestly is kind of incredible. I would have absolutely done it with a saxophone, because I don't play saxophones, but saxophones are sexy. In fact, things were so loosey-goosey that in 1923, a clean-shaven Danish man was stopped at the German border because his passport photo showed him with a mustache. He was required to regrow the mustache before he was allowed to leave the country. That is not a joke. That actually happened. Sir, your upper lip needs to match your photo. Fast forward to today, and passport photos are tightly regulated. No hats, unless they're religious headwear. No glasses, specific background color, specific sizing, and most relevantly, a neutral facial expression. So, both eyes have to be open, your mouth has to be closed, and you have to be facing the camera directly. But here's the nuance that most people don't know. The US doesn't technically ban smiling. The State Department actually says smiling is allowed, but only if your eyes are open and your mouth is closed. So essentially, you can do that barely there, I'm not actually happy, but I'm not miserable expression. Smize, if you will. Tyra Banks would be proud. The real issue is the big, toothy, ear-to-ear grin. That's where the trouble starts. And the reason is not arbitrary bureaucratic cruelty, it's actually deeply practical and kind of fascinating. It comes down to facial recognition technology. Here's how it works. When you arrive at a border crossing, especially at major airports, automated systems, rather than human officers, are often responsible for scanning and verifying your passport. And unlike humans, who can recognize each other in all kinds of expressions, facial recognition algorithms need specific, consistent reference points to confirm who you are and who you say you are. Think of your face like a map. The algorithm measures things like distance between your pupils, the width of your eyes, the spacing between your nose and mouth, the shape of your jaw, dozens of individual points that together create a unique facial structure. Now here's the problem with smiling. When you flash a big grin, your entire face changes. Your eyes narrow, your cheeks rise, the proportions of your mouth shift dramatically. What used to be a precise map of your face is now a completely different landscape. The algorithm compares your live face to the photo, and suddenly the distances don't match up. The system can't confirm it's you. A biometric expert put it well. Algorithms don't work as we do. To compare a 3D face with a 2D passport photo, they need to pinpoint and measure the user's facial features. Smiling can make it harder as it alters facial proportions. So basically, your smile is genuinely confusing the robots, which is either deeply funny or kind of alarming, depending on how you look at it. The no smile rule for US passports specifically kicked in around 2004, which lines up with the broader rollout of biometric passports and automated border systems globally. Before that, you could rock a full smile in your passport photo, but now the science has caught up and the rules have followed. And if you think Americans have it bad, in most European countries like the UK, smiling of any kind is entirely banned. Not that those people would smile anyway. All they can do is just the resting face, forever memorialized in a little document that you'll carry for 10 years. 10 years, by the way, you'll be looking at that photo for a decade, which is kind of a tragedy in some places. Now, in a study of over 10,000 passport photos, an incorrect facial expression, including smiling, was the third most common reason photos were rejected. Not bad lighting, not wrong background, smiling too much. People just can't help themselves, apparently. And if your photo gets rejected, the passport agency sends your application back and asks for a new photo, which delays your entire passport processing. So that Mediterranean vacation that you've been planning since 2020, yeah, it's going to be delayed because you smile. Now, there's a little asterisk here, and it's genuinely adorable. Kids get a pass, sort of. The rules are more lenient for children because, as one expert noted, having a toddler maintain a neutral facial expression is nearly impossible. I mean, have you ever tried to make a 3-year-old stop smiling on command? Good luck. It's not really going to happen unless your kid is like a magazine model. Anyway, for newborns and toddlers, mouths can be slightly open and eyes partially closed, and it's still acceptable. The key is just that the child faces the camera, because even facial recognition technology apparently acknowledges that babies do whatever they want. So, the next time someone at the post office tells you to stop smiling, just remember, you're not being told to look sad, you're being asked to look like a consistent, machine-readable version of yourself. You're essentially becoming a human QR code, which is either the most modern thing ever or the weirdest dystopian flex of our time. Either way, travel safe, keep a straight face, and maybe save the big smile for when you actually do something fun at wherever you're going.